In this video, I'm going over the AFG31000 and how to use burst mode. I am connecting the AFG to an MSO6 series for display purposes. This touchscreen function generator has a typical selection of predefined waveforms such as sine waves, square waves, pulses, and ramps, as well as the ability to import arbitrary waveforms applicable to your testing. There are also a variety of commonly used front panel buttons for immediate access to the user. For this demonstration, I will use a 1 MHz sine wave at 5 volts peak to peak. The user is given the selection of using the on-screen keypad. There is also a number pad available on the lower right hand of the front panel, or the scroll wheel. In the basic settings of the AFG31000, there are 4 modes. There is continuous mode, modulation mode, sweep mode, and burst mode. Selecting burst mode and using the touchscreen, we can scroll down to see all of the available options within burst mode. We can see that there are 5 cycles, and the interval is 1 millisecond. Let's see what that looks like on an MSO6 series. Highlighting the cycle field, I'm going to use the scroll wheel to change the number of cycles within the given interval. You can see this being reflected on the scope. Changing the number of cycles back to 100 will give a better visual of how changing the interval affects the reoccurrence of these 100 cycle bursts. I'll be decreasing the interval from 1 millisecond to 500 microseconds, then from 500 microseconds down to 200 microseconds. Again, changing the interval changes how often you're going to see this 100 cycle burst occur. Gating is another option within burst mode, and using an internal source sets the burst to occur during the first half of the interval, regardless of the burst frequency. Here we can also change the interval duration. Now we will check out what external gating can do. Using a splitter cable from channel 2 into the input of the AFG to control the gating. It will also be plugged into the channel 2 of the scope, and we will see visually how gating works towards the end of this video. The signal I will be using to control the gating will be a pulse set at 1 kHz and 5 volts peak to peak. So zooming in on the scope, now you can see that the burst falls within this gated pulse, and as I increase the duty cycle, the number of cycles of the burst increases dynamically. This concludes a brief introduction to the AFG31000 and how to use burst mode.